The interstellar arena loomed like a colossus against the backdrop of stars, its vast dome glimmering with shifting patterns of alien script and pulsating neon. Inside, the cacophony of countless species rose in waves, a deafening orchestra of cheers, jeers, and guttural roars. Here, champions of the galaxy clashed in battles of glory, their feats of strength and brutality captivating the audience. The arena was a cathedral of violence, and its gladiators were gods. Alex Grayson was not one of them. He moved unnoticed through the tunnels beneath the arena stands, a mop in one hand and a bucket in the other. The rhythmic squeak of his boots against the polished floors was drowned out by the chaos above. The janitor was an invisible presence, the human who cleaned the bloodstains, repaired shattered equipment, and disposed of the remnants of creatures far larger and more exotic than himself. As he rounded a corner, a group of towering gladiators blocked his path. They were a mix of species, their forms bristling with scales, spikes, and metallic implants. At their center stood Gorath, a hulking champion covered in shimmering crimson armor. His mandibles clacked in what passed for a grin as he noticed Alex. "Ah, the cleaner." Gorath's voice was a resonant growl, laced with amusement. "Tell me, human, how does it feel to scrape the filth of champions from the ground while we carve our names into legend?" The others laughed, a harsh, echoing sound. Alex paused, meeting Gorath's multifaceted gaze without flinching. His expression was neutral, the calm mask he had perfected through years of enduring such taunts. "Someone's got to clean up after you," Alex said evenly. "You're not exactly tidy." Gorath's mandibles clicked sharply in irritation, though the others roared with laughter. The champion loomed closer, his immense shadow engulfing Alex. "Careful, janitor. The arena is no place for those who don't understand strength." Gorath shoved a clawed finger toward Alex's chest, a calculated display of dominance. Alex didn't move, though his grip on the mop tightened slightly. A flicker of something raw passed through his gray eyes, gone too quickly for anyone to notice. Gorath snorted and turned away, waving dismissively. "Get back to your mopping, human," he said. "Leave the real work to us." As the gladiators strode off, their laughter fading down the corridor, Alex exhaled and resumed his route. The words didn't sting. Not anymore. Up above, the announcer's booming voice echoed through the arena, proclaiming the upcoming match. Gorath was scheduled to fight Kraskelen, a beast from the outer territories rumored to have annihilated an entire platoon of planetary guards. The fight was being billed as a spectacle, a clash between Gorath's calculated ferocity and Kraskelen's untamed savagery. In the janitor's quarters, Alex sat on a small bench, methodically sharpening the edge of a blade-like tool. It wasn't a weapon, at least not officially. It was part of his toolkit, used to scrape hardened alien matter from the arena walls. But the way Alex handled it with practiced precision suggested it could serve another purpose. The dim light above flickered, casting shifting shadows across the room. Alex's hands moved with mechanical efficiency, but his thoughts were elsewhere. Flashes of a distant memory surfaced, an explosion, the acrid smell of burning metal, screams. He pushed them back down, burying them beneath the weight of his routine. The next morning, Alex was in the arena before the gates opened, checking the integrity of the containment barriers. The arena's floor, a lattice of advanced alloys designed to withstand the most punishing of blows, bore deep scars from countless battles. Alex ran a scanner over a particularly jagged groove, the device beeping softly in acknowledgement. "Janitor," a voice said, startling him. Alex looked up to see a wiry alien technician standing nearby, its four eyes blinking asynchronously. Unlike the gladiators, the technician regarded Alex with curiosity rather than disdain. "You're very thorough," it said, its tone clipped but not unfriendly. "Someone has to be," Alex replied, straightening. The technician tilted its head. "You move like someone who's seen battle. Yet you remain here, among the refuse." Alex met its gaze, but didn't respond. The silence stretched, and the technician eventually shrugged, turning back to its console. Hours later, the arena was alive with activity. Spectators thronged the stands, their anticipation palpable as Gorith strode into the ring. His crimson armor gleamed under the arena lights, his every movement a calculated display of power. Across from him, Kraskalin emerged, a creature of sinewy muscle and jagged bone plates. Its 6 glowing eyes scanned the arena with predatory intent, and a low, guttural growl reverberated through its massive chest. The fight began with the clash of claws on armor, the sound like thunder rolling across the arena. Gorith moved with precision, his strikes aimed at the vulnerable joints of Kraskalin's exoskeleton. But the beast was relentless, its strength and speed forcing Gorith onto the defensive. From his vantage point in the maintenance corridor, Alex watched the battle unfold. He leaned against the wall, arms crossed, his expression unreadable. The crowd's cheers grew frenzied as Kraskalin delivered a crushing blow, sending Gorith sprawling. But the beast didn't stop. It surged forward, its claws tearing through the containment field as if it were paper. The energy barrier sputtered and collapsed, and Kraskalin roared, turning its attention to the stands. Panic erupted. Spectators scrambled for the exits, their cries mingling with the arena's blaring alarms. The gladiators, so proud and fierce in the ring, hesitated. None dared to face the rampaging beast outside the safety of the containment zone. Alex didn't hesitate. He stepped forward, his hand tightening around the handle of his mop. His calm demeanor shifted, the neutrality giving way to something colder, sharper. As the chaos raged around him, Alex moved toward the arena floor, his silhouette a stark contrast to the towering alien warriors frozen in fear. Those who noticed him scoffed, dismissing him as a fool. But Alex paid them no mind. This was not the first time he'd faced a monster. The arena was a maelstrom of chaos. Kraskalin's guttural roar reverberated through the stands, a primal sound that sent tremors through the air. It was a towering monstrosity of sinew and bone, its jagged exoskeleton gleaming under the arena lights. The beast's 6 luminous eyes darted across the fleeing crowd, searching for its next target. Gorith, bloodied and battered, struggled to his feet. His crimson armor, once pristine, now bore deep gashes where Kraskalin's claws had torn through. He staggered forward, clutching a jagged spear, his confidence replaced by grim determination. But as the beast turned its attention away from him, focusing instead on the spectators, Gorith froze. The champion, revered for his bravery, hesitated. Alex Grayson moved before anyone else did. He stepped out onto the arena floor, his boots crunching against the metallic surface. In his hands, he carried a reinforced mop handle, the once humble tool, now augmented with scavenged components. His grip was steady, his movements purposeful, as he advanced toward the rampaging Kraskalin. At first, no one noticed him. The crowd was too busy scrambling for safety, the other gladiators too paralyzed by the sight of the unleashed beast. But when Alex's silhouette came into view, a ripple of disbelief spread through the stands. "Is that the janitor?" someone shouted, their voice incredulous. "Foolish human," another scoffed. "He'll be torn apart in seconds." Gorith turned, his eyes widening as he saw Alex approach. "Get back, human. This isn't your fight," he bellowed, his voice strained with pain. Alex ignored him. His focus was on Kraskalin, whose attention had now shifted to this new, unexpected challenger. The beast let out a guttural snarl, lowering its massive head as if to inspect the human before it. The moment stretched taut like a drawn bowstring. Then Kraskalin charged. Alex moved faster than anyone anticipated. He sidestepped the beast's initial lunge with a fluid grace that belied his unassuming appearance. Kraskalin's claws struck the ground where he'd been standing, sending sparks flying. Alex retaliated with a swift, precise strike to one of the creature's glowing eyes, using the sharpened end of his improvised weapon. The beast howled in rage, rearing back. It lashed out blindly, its massive limbs carving through the air with lethal force. Alex ducked and weaved, staying just out of reach, his movements a blend of discipline and instinct. Each strike he delivered was calculated, aimed at the creature's vulnerable joints and exposed tissue. The crowd, which had been jeering moments earlier, fell silent. Gladiators watched in stunned disbelief as the janitor held his ground against the monstrous Kraskalin. Gorith's mandibles clicked in frustration, a flicker of shame crossing his face as he realized he had not acted while this human had. Kraskalin roared again, its 6 eyes blazing with fury. It surged forward, faster this time, and Alex barely avoided the strike. The beast's claws caught the edge of his makeshift weapon, shattering it into splinters. Alex stumbled but quickly recovered, his hands now empty save for a jagged piece of the mop handle. Above, the arena's automated defense systems sputtered to life, their long dormant cannons swiveling toward the beast. But the chaos had damaged their targeting systems, and instead of firing on Kraskalin, the cannons unleashed a barrage of energy bolts across the arena floor. Alex dove for cover as the ground erupted in a series of deafening explosions. Through the smoke and debris, Alex emerged, his face set with grim determination. He grabbed a piece of fallen arena equipment, a jagged fragment of a gladiator's discarded weapon, and turned to face Kraskalin once more. The beast was injured now, its movements slower, its snarls tinged with pain. But it was no less dangerous. It circled Alex, its claws scraping against the ground, each step measured and deliberate. Alex shifted his stance, his breathing steady. He wasn't fighting with brute strength. He was fighting with precision, exploiting every mistake the beast made. Years of suppressed rage and discipline coiled inside him, and now, for the first time, he let it surface. Kraskalin lunged again, its claws aimed directly at Alex's chest. Instead of dodging, Alex stepped forward, closing the distance faster than the beast anticipated. He drove the jagged fragment upward, piercing one of Kraskalin's secondary eyes. The creature reared back, its roar a deafening cacophony of pain and fury. The crowd erupted. The same spectators who had mocked Alex minutes earlier were now cheering, their voices a thunderous roar that matched the beast's. Gladiators who had scorned him watched in awe, some even stepping closer to the edge of the arena, unable to believe what they were seeing. Gorith, still clutching his spear, took a step forward. But something stopped him. Pride, shame, or perhaps an unwillingness to overshadow what was unfolding. Kraskalin made one final, desperate charge, its massive form barreling toward Alex with unrelenting force. Alex braced himself, his eyes narrowing as he calculated his next move. At the last possible second, he rolled to the side, grabbing a section of the damaged containment barrier. Using it as a makeshift shield, he drove the jagged edge into Kraskalin's throat. The beast staggered, its movements growing sluggish. It let out one final, guttural snarl before collapsing to the ground, its massive body kicking up a cloud of dust and debris. For a moment, the arena was silent. Then, as the dust settled and Alex stood amidst the wreckage, the crowd erupted into deafening applause. Alex didn't acknowledge the cheers. He dropped the makeshift weapon, his shoulders heaving as he caught his breath. His gray eyes scanned the stands briefly before settling on Gorith. The champion met his gaze, his expression unreadable. Then, slowly, Gorith inclined his head, a gesture of respect. Alex turned and walked away, leaving the broken body of Kraskalin behind. He didn't wait for the accolades or the questions. There was still work to be done. The crowd's roar surged like a living thing, crashing against the arena walls and spilling into every corner of the colossal station. Spectators who had jeered at the human moments ago now shouted his name, their voices mingling in a chaotic chant. Above, the lights of the arena flickered in a rhythmic pulse, celebrating a victory that no one had anticipated. Alex Grayson ignored it all. The beast's body lay crumpled at his feet, its lifeless form a stark reminder of the violence that had unfolded. Alex's improvised weapon slipped from his hand, clattering against the metallic floor. His chest heaved with controlled breaths, his gray eyes scanning the area, not for applause, but for threats. For a moment, he was still, his posture tense, as though expecting the fight to continue. Then, the tension released, leaving only the exhaustion. In the silence that followed, Gorith limped forward, his crimson armor glinting faintly under the fractured arena lights. His mandibles clicked hesitantly, and the mockery that usually laced his tone was gone. He looked at Alex, the human janitor who had done what the galaxy's fiercest gladiators had refused to. "You fought well," Gorth said, his voice low. The words carried weight, a rare offering from a champion unaccustomed to giving praise. Alex didn't respond immediately. He glanced at Gorth, his expression unreadable, then shifted his focus back to the shattered containment barrier. His silence spoke volumes, a quiet rejection of the spectacle that surrounded them. "It wasn't about fighting well," Alex said finally, his tone devoid of triumph. "It was about doing what needed to be done." Gorth flinched at the bluntness, his pride prickling. But beneath the sting, there was a grudging respect. The human's words carried a truth that cut deeper than any weapon. As arena technicians swarmed the battlefield, securing Kraskelin's remains and repairing the damaged barriers, Alex turned and began walking toward the maintenance exit. The crowd's chants faltered as they realized he was leaving without so much as a glance in their direction. "Wait!" A voice called out, sharp and insistent. Alex paused. One of the arena's officials, a tall, lanky alien with elongated limbs and a shimmering cloak, stepped forward. Its eyes, bright and calculating, darted between Alex and the crowd. The official's thin mouth curved into a smile, its sharp teeth glinting like knives. "You can't just leave," the official said, spreading its arms wide as though to encompass the entire arena. "The crowd loves you. They've never seen anything like this before. You could be a star, a champion." Alex stared at the alien, his gaze steady but cold. "I'm not interested," he said flatly, the weight of his exhaustion pressing down on every word. The official's smile faltered, replaced by a look of bewilderment. "Not interested? You just defeated Kraskelin. Do you know how many would kill for an opportunity like this? Fame, fortune, respect, it's all yours for the taking." Alex's jaw tightened. He looked past the official, toward the stands where the crowd's cheers had turned to murmurs of confusion. For a brief moment, he considered the offer, not for what it promised, but for what it represented. Then he shook his head. "I didn't do this for them," he said, his voice firm. "I did it because no one else would." With that, he turned and walked away, leaving the official sputtering in disbelief. The maintenance corridors were quiet, a stark contrast to the chaos he'd left behind. Alex moved through them with practiced ease, his footsteps echoing softly against the metal walls. The farther he went, the more the noise of the arena faded, replaced by the steady hum of the station's machinery. When he finally reached the janitor's quarters, he closed the door behind him and leaned against it, exhaling slowly. The small room was sparse, its only decorations a few faded photographs tacked to the wall. One photo, in particular, drew his attention, a younger version of himself, standing with a group of humans, their faces bright with hope. Alex stared at the photo for a long time. The memories it stirred were sharp and painful, but he didn't turn away. Instead, he let them settle over him, a quiet reminder of why he had chosen this life. A soft knock broke the silence. Alex straightened, his hand instinctively brushing against his side, where a small blade was concealed. "Come in," he said, his voice cautious. The door slid open, revealing Gorth. The champion's usual arrogance was absent, replaced by something quieter, almost uncertain. He stepped inside, his massive frame filling the small space, and glanced around before his gaze settled on Alex. "I owe you an apology," Gorth said, his tone reluctant but sincere. Alex raised an eyebrow, his expression skeptical. "For what?" he asked. "For underestimating you," Gorth admitted. "For treating you as though you were less than what you are." He hesitated, his mandibles clicking softly. "You saved lives today, mine included." Alex didn't respond immediately. Instead, he studied Gorth, searching for any trace of insincerity. Finding none, he nodded once, a small but meaningful gesture. "Apology accepted," he said. The two stood in silence for a moment, the tension between them easing. Finally, Gorth cleared his throat and gestured toward the door. "If you ever change your mind about fighting," he said, "there's a place for you among us. You've earned that much." Alex's lips curved into a faint, fleeting smile. "I'll keep that in mind," he said, though both men knew he wouldn't. As Gorith left, Alex returned to his bench, sitting down heavily. He picked up the blade he'd been sharpening earlier and ran a finger along its edge, the motion as much about focus as it was about maintenance. The stars beyond the small window were distant and cold, a reminder of the vastness of the universe and the countless battles still waiting to be fought. Alex leaned back, his eyes drifting shut. For now, the arena was quiet, but he knew it wouldn't stay that way for long.